I mean, does this sound like a healthy market? Does this sound like something that has the long-term best interest of the market in mind? Doesn't to me. But that's the new DC.
Marketing directly to the consumer at the expense of the retailer.
Yes.
This goes out to the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. It's hard and it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Yep, we start both yawning. Mm-hmm. That's because Fridays are so labor intensive. Wait, what did you do today?
Really nothing. Really nothing.
That's what days not at the store are for.
I mean, kind of. Some of it is coronavirus related, where like maybe I'd go run errands, or I'd go to the movies, or I'd go to whatever. Instead, it's like I don't want to go anywhere. Going places is dangerous.
Yeah, I wonder how gas stations and petrol companies are surviving.
Oh, I'm sure they're getting handouts from the government, same as always.
Same like everybody. Everybody gets them. Fridays now, I've only been back on Fridays for a little while, but they're so tiring and they're so labor intensive.
Yeah.
I was able to complete a task today with Gina's help that was on my schedule for 2 Fridays ago.
Yeesh.
And again, I didn't get to things I wanted to do until like 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
There's so much extra stuff, and it just keeps piling up. And
yep.
Not only that, we didn't get Lunar today.
Okay. I guess Monday then.
Yeah, it's on the schedule for Monday.
That's okay.
We'll see. Monday by the end of day.
We'll see.
So, yeah, I imagine it'll be earlier. Plus, does FedEx not deliver on Saturdays?
I have no idea.
Because we're only 1 day away from them. It was scheduled to get sent out today.
Okay.
I'm just always nervous about using these new distributors.
Sure.
Because everybody has such horror stories.
Yep.
And we don't have them yet.
Yep.
Like, we had damages on high-quantity variants last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I reported it, and they got back to us immediately.
Yeah.
And they're scheduled to be replaced in this upcoming shipment.
That's great.
And that is not the type of response other people seem to be getting.
It's unfortunate.
It is, and I don't know why we're not having problems, but I also don't know if we should pessimistically expect them.
Oh, I don't. I mean, people have always had problems with Diamond that we've traditionally not had.
Yeah.
Like, we'll have shortages now and then, but people will talk about stories where it's like entire boxes went missing, or every copy of, this publisher's books were damaged, and it's like, we've never experienced that.
It seems like people that are using UCS have way more problems.
Yeah.
But on a thread, somebody locally chimed in, Lunar isn't any better. I'm not having problems with them.
Yeah, that's nice. And
we are hopefully a week away from there being system updates within Comic Suite to make things a little bit easier.
Should be pretty soon.
We did have Challenger specific issues this week, like everybody who was down for Dark Knight's Heavy Metal or Death Metal 2. Mm-hmm. It was in their account twice.
Yeah, it got doubled up somehow. Probably somewhere where I was inputting it into the system, it somehow had doubled up.
So I thought I had a way around it. I thought, like, as I pulled someone's books today, I would see, oh, it's in their pile. So it would go right to their account to delete it. Only it's not there.
Nope. Not on their Comic Suite account.
Nope.
The solution is basically you could go to the item dashboard in Comic Suite and just remove it for everyone. They wouldn't have one copy, they would have 0, but they also wouldn't have a duplicate. But then it would be down to the person ringing them up to realize, oh, they should still get the discount on this. It was on their list.
Unfortunately, it's also down to the person ringing them up to notice they have it down there twice.
That's true.
Which hasn't been an issue yet.
So far.
But we don't know everybody that's been rung up.
It's true.
And then there were more people today that had Justice League on their account, but not on their box.
Oh.
And there were a few more copies on the shelf than I thought we would have.
Okay.
So I think there might be more people who missed it somehow.
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a computer thing because it's in their account. You wouldn't miss it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a interesting DC Comics glitch.
True.
What isn't a glitch is the number of Empyre books we're not going to have for the shelf.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we'll probably not have the week of release, and we might not even have enough for pre-orders at this point.
Empyre, for months, we've been talking about how we're not going to support this series, and we're not going to we don't want to get burned on all of the side series like we do all the time.
We lost a bunch of money on Absolute Carnage and War of the Realms because
those
we decided to stock those tie-ins for people who might have been curious about them, and no one was, and we just ate that money, and we decided not going to do that again.
But we said that up front.
Sure.
But
we said that, and no one heard it.
Yeah.
The problem with any time we do something like that, where we put our foot down or whatever, it's no one notices, no one cares. The end result is that a lot of people at the last minute decided they wanted to add everything from Empyre, and it's even if you would have talked to them about this 2 months ago, they wouldn't have decided they wanted Empyre until the week before. There's literally no way around this. This is just how the industry works. You can try as hard as you want as a store to lock in your orders, a month early, but short of absolutely saying, we will not add anything to your list after FOCs, there's no way around it. And even if you did that, then what? You're just, you don't want that person's money?
Oh, I didn't realize that was a direct question. I mean...
that was the end of my statement.
So
okay. That was your turn to talk.
I thought you were asking me specifically if I wanted their money. Which is a tough question, because I do, but sometimes I don't. Because I would rather try to make a point that will...
Go ahead.
...never be made.
Nope.
It just makes it more difficult. But, this industry is just getting harder and harder.
Yeah, single-issue comics, I would really be cool with them going away very soon.
Yeah.
Of all the ways that industries are changing in the wake of the coronavirus, I would not be upset if single-issue comics disappeared. It is so difficult to order correctly because it's stuff that starts going bad the second you put it on the shelf. And that means that, if you get... getting enough anymore is impossible. It's absolutely impossible. The amount of people who came in on Wednesday where we had sold out of DC books and were like, can you get me this? And the answer is, no, I can't. Because there isn't any stock anywhere. A bunch of people who are like, oh, I want these DC things from a few weeks ago. Unless DC goes back to press on Green Lantern Season 2, Number 5, we're just never going to have it. It's just gone. And it's a book that came out 2 weeks ago.
Jimmy Olsen, number 12, we're out of. We had someone looking for it today.
Nope.
They said, can you order it? And I said, I will take your name and number. I will try. We're probably not going to be able to get this for you.
Yeah. And that sucks. It sucks to have to say that about, concluding chapters of 12-issue series or just the current issue of a comic that's been coming out for decades. Is just no.
Traditionally...
There's no recourse for us to get this for you.
When DC was still a Diamond, they used to have all these things available.
Yeah, in general.
And I don't know if it's because they split the stock. I don't know if Lunar and UCS talk to each other about, oh, we're out of this, can we get this? Where they get it from, how they get it from...
No idea.
DC directly, and how DC manages that stock back and forth. All questions that should have been thought about ahead of time, but of course were not.
Nope.
And did you see what they did? Not that this is anywhere near as dramatic as, hey, what has DC been, how are they screwing us this week? But today's announcement about FOCs.
Oh, yeah, it's moving a day earlier.
Yeah, it's moving a day earlier.
Well,
so
17 hours earlier, I think. Traditionally, it would close at well, they're doing it Pacific time because it's their offices. So it was normally,
5 p.m. on Monday?
Well, it was 5 p.m. our time on Monday, which means it was probably 3 p.m. then. And now it's midnight Sunday night. So it's
2 a.m.?
15 hours? They moved it 15 hours back?
Which, fine, we do them Sundays anyway. But it's just another way to...
But it also means you only have 3 days to do FOCs. Like, you only have Friday through Sunday now instead of Friday through Monday.
Yeah.
So it's a much shorter window, and then it gets even worse, I think. I mean, it's there's a paragraph in there where they explain what's going on like
Monday holidays.
Yeah, long weekends with Monday holidays.
And I didn't understand that either, because they said
all.
you have till Thursday. But I mean,
but they
previous
start
Thursday
on Friday.
or the following
How
Thursday?
Is that? Yeah. Does that mean you have more time when there's a holiday or less time? I cannot understand what they're talking about in that example. It is worded so confusingly, even for DC.
I've thought that they put out too many of their direct channels.
Well,
it used to be just Wednesdays.
Now there's no stopping them. They've got to unify communications across all channels, Patrick. That means more communications across more channels.
If there was a way to make that into a clever T-shirt, I would do that.
No, I just...
Because it's such a favorite saying of yours.
I'll never
but you
forget
hate it.
It's the stupidest thing. Like, hey, we're making your lives like 26% more difficult. Cool, what do we get out of this? We're unifying communications across all channels. Great.
Not our channels.
And
no,
as
all
always,
channels.
As always, what does this mean? Like, oh, cool, Rorschach. Everyone knows about Rorschach. I can't order Rorschach. Rorschach doesn't come out for months. I don't even think the new catalog's up. So if someone comes in and says, I want Rorschach, what am I supposed to do with that? You've got your communications, but it's still dumb. They're still bad. They still don't work. So having them in a way where the date at the bottom is across, like, not just the digital store, but also in stores, and it's not like Amazon or Barnes & Noble is carrying Rorschach single-issue comics, so what does that matter? All of this is so stupid. It's all the DC stuff is so backwards and so poorly justified. So yeah, unified communications across all channels is my shorthand for saying I really hate DC Comics, and I hate how adversarial they've made their relationship with the direct market.
Going back to FOCs for a second, it also changes, like, oh, well, I was saying, well, we do ours on Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to separate themselves from that and make DC a separate thing entirely.
Sure.
Like, oh, you're not doing FOCs, you're doing DC FOCs, and then everybody else. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make it special, but what they're actually doing is making it special in the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, their version of, we want to do things a specific way has always, well, not always, but the last few months has been this insane thing of, like, I see how it's better for DC. It's worse for us. And there's just no version of this where they've ever tried to make it not that. Like, they've never explained it in a way where it's like, how is doing this, like, on your schedule better for me? And it's like, no, it's just better for them. And they've wanted to make it better for them for a long time, and now they're able to do that. Like, I hate the idea of, like, looking at Diamond and going, were they the ones that were acting as, like, the barrier between all of DC's bad decisions and us for all this time? Like, was it just stuff where they're like, no, we're not going to change how FOC works just to make it easier for you as a company? Like, everybody has to abide by the same rules so that everybody is working on a level playing field, and everybody has, and retailers specifically, have the most frictionless experience. And DC's just like, but that's harder for us! And so it's like, now they've changed things so that it's frictionless for them and harder for us. Thanks.
But when it's harder for us, they make less money. And I don't see how...
Seems like they're making an amazing amount of money.
I don't see how this is benefiting them because of how much more money they could be making.
I mean, there were a ton of complaints about DC's ideas and strategies and edicts a few weeks ago, but I mean, I read that David Harper thing. It sounds like everyone's making DC money hand over fist.
But we just talked about earlier how much we would reorder if we could.
Sure, but also who knows how much money DC was losing on having backstock available.
Yeah, that's good. It's a fair point.
I mean, I think it's still dumb because they have the lowest, like, they have the least amount of money in backstock than anybody in the supply chain. Like, it costs them less to have 1,000 extra copies of Green Lantern around than it would for 1,000 stores to have a copy of Green Lantern sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And that's, yeah, theoretically, more sales that you could make. but they're not. So I don't know. I don't like them as a company. I don't understand anything they're doing in a way that is not just greed. It's just greed. I don't like any of it. Every communication with them seems to be some new element to their publishing strategy where I'm just like, oh, that sounds crass and gross. More variant covers. Higher levels for variant covers. More ways to get retailers to stretch beyond what they normally could organically sell in favor of hitting some level where they can get a variant that they can flip for a bunch of money to the one whale they might have at their store that'll buy it, while boxes of unsold copies of the comics languish under a table. I mean, does this sound like a healthy market? Does this sound like something that has the long-term best interest of the market in mind? Doesn't to me. But that's the new DC.
Marketing directly to the consumer at the expense of the retailer.
Yes.
Another step backwards in this entire process is, and I've had this conversation multiple times this week, is how it's the year 2020.
Still.
Technology is theoretically better than it ever has been. And we are using more tools at our disposal to, in theory, perform our job better.
Mm-hmm.
But DC is making us have to be an analog store.
Yeah.
We have to write things down on paper or start annoying spreadsheets just to keep information that we can't do anything with until they feel like we can do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, if DC wants to do the whole, like, hey, we announced Rorschach, fine. Can I order Rorschach on Lunar? If I can't, then why did you announce it? Stuff like that. Like, usually, like, in the book trade, when a book gets announced, I could probably go to Ingram and place my order for it. It's been announced. But that's not how it works with comics. It's announced, and then, like, maybe anywhere between a few days to a few months later, it might be offered for order.
Oh, unless it's Three Jokers, then it's 3 years later.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that it was announced at San Diego Comic-Con with, like, some preview artwork. And then we had people the next day who were just like, can you put that on my list? And it's like, I can't, because I don't know when it's coming out. And the joke was, like, a bunch of the people who asked don't even shop with us anymore.
Yeah.
They've churned out of reading comics because that's how long it's been since that book was announced. So yeah, I there's yet to be a tool that DC has announced or utilized that has made the process of selling DC comics any better for us. And that's, in theory, why they did this. Was that they had all these ideas that they just couldn't do under the oppressive yoke of Diamond Comic distributors. All the ways they were going to grow the market. And, so frustrating. So they had to go their own way. And it's like, everything that you're doing is stuff that Diamond had better policies than that. And the things that you're offering me, there's nothing there. DC Connect? Was that worth all of this? Some stupid digital magazine that no one reads? Instead of the print magazine that people could come into the store and I'd hand it to them?
Yeah, but
this is the thing that is the most frustrating element of all of DC's we're going to grow the market stuff, is that inherently none of it matters, because 99% of people who add a comic book or pick up a comic book off the shelf do it the second they come into the store. That's it. Like, the amount of people who are adding Empyre, it didn't matter how many emails that we sent out and how many times that we would mention it in a newsletter. They come into the store and they see Empyre and they go, I want to add Empyre, and I want to add all the Empyre tie-ins. That's it. That's the one and only interaction they have with promotion for comics, is when they see it on the wall. So all of the things that DC could hypothetically be doing, it's irrelevant. Like, the only thing that matters for promotion for comics is getting them on the wall at the comic shop. And DC's made it more difficult to do that. So whatever they think they're doing for their benefit, like you said, I mean, they're not keeping backstock available across multiple different vendors. So when we sell out and people come into the store, like, they can't get the book. That's it. Whatever promotion you're doing is way down the list after get the books on the shelf. Have it be something that is on the shelf and I as a customer can walk in and see it and say, I want this. You know? Like, it adds in your books. Like, that's all that matters. Like, these things are... There is almost no better way to do it because you do not have the reach as an industry to inform people of your products. You just don't. Like, I mentioned a few people who knew about stuff at San Diego. You know, people hear about something at a convention, or people see Rorschach got mentioned on a comics news site or in Variety or Deadline or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know where this stuff lands anymore. But we won't get people adding Rorschach, really adding Rorschach, until they walk in the store and they see a thing on our counter that says that there's a Rorschach comic coming out in 2 months. We make up that flyer, we put it on the counter, and we go, Rorschach. And they go, oh, the Rorschach comic, I want that. So us putting it in emails or DC putting it places, there's a very, very, very small group of people that are actually consuming that information the way that DC thinks is valuable to grow the market. You know? Like, we'll get 5 or 6 people that'll probably say, I want that Rorschach book. But they're not the average consumer. They are people who are intensely dialed into the market. They are very engaged with comics and comics news.
And that's who DC thinks all of their fans are.
Yeah, but it's such a sliver of the pie. Like,
you
most of
remember
the people that are finding out about this stuff through the internet are finding out about it from people's YouTube shows, and those people don't buy comics. They'll learn more about the Rorschach comic when that same person does a YouTube video about the Rorschach issue 1 and just basically spoils the whole issue. That's their engagement with it via YouTube.
I don't remember how many years ago this was, like 10 years ago, maybe less. There was a statistic where only 5% of wrestling fans were actually on the internet.
Sure.
And it was just this vocal minority of people complaining about things.
I've talked about this before from the Ask a Game Dev blog, that the video game industry has what they call the 80-25 rule. And the 80 part is 80% of the people who buy a video game will never interact with anything other than the video game itself. They won't go to a forum. They won't read a review online. They just buy a video game and they play it, and that's it. The end of it. And it's the same thing for comics fans. It's the same thing probably for a lot of industries. 80% of people will just go into a comic shop and then buy the comics they see on the shelves.
How often do you find out about a new comic because somebody comes in and asks for it? Like, for example, if it was a Kieran Gillen book.
There was that one time where they announced Die in like some Hollywood industry website, and somebody had who's a huge Kieran Gillen fan and probably had an alert on their phone when they found out that Kieran Gillen had a new book out, an email to say that they wanted Die, and I had to go, do you mean Die? The Kirkman book that came out like 2 weeks ago? So I mean, that stuff happens, but
also when
and then Image told us like 2 hours later,
Jamie McKelvey announced that he was going to be doing at some point in the future a sci-fi book.
Mm-hmm.
We got that as well. Like, oh, can I add this to my list?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what this is.
Yeah.
But it's because people who have that level of fandom, like, for example, I think that if you were to make it about a Kenny Omega match, like, I would be dialed into that early on. And I'd be able to say, oh, I'm so excited for the reuniting of the Golden Lovers that's going to happen at Wrestle Kingdom 2021 or something like that.
Sure.
That hasn't, like, got barely announced or whatever.
Right.
Like, oh, because I saw it on Kenny's Twitter or something like that. Not because
but the majority of people,
New Japan mentioned it.
Yeah, the majority of people don't interact with their hobbies that way. I mean, I think almost everyone has something that they're that passionate about. But for a lot of comics fans, you know, they'll come in and they'll buy their books, but they're never going to, like, they don't follow Marvel on Twitter. They don't have a Facebook group that talks about comics. They don't even necessarily have any friends of theirs that read comics that are passionate about media.
That's why they come to Challengers Comics and Conversation.
That's true. But in general, like, that's the thing is that the comic shop, for a lot of people who buy comics at comic shops, is the only way they learn about comics. Is, again, when they see it on the shelf or when they see us put up a poster or make a flyer or whatever. Like, we could send out 1 million emails. We could send them out every hour on the hour. They're never going to see them. But they will see that book on the shelf, and that's when they'll decide to get it. I basically, any, like, digital tools or whatever, like, extra marketing DC Comics is going to do is not worth the stress that I'm going through trying to stock DC books. Because stocking DC books is the only way that people learn about DC books.
Now I have an idea.
What's that, Patrick?
A way to market comics to people.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we get the previews text file or the previews art files, let's print every cover out comic book size and put it on the shelf.
Ooh.
So when someone goes to grab that book, it's just a piece of paper. They'll be, well, what is this? We're like, oh, we can sign you up for that in advance.
Sure.
That way they'll find it right away.
Interesting.
I have another theory about a whole different thing, but I don't know if we want to change topics so quickly.
Go ahead.
Because it's as equally sound of a theory as the idea I just presented.
Okie dokie.
First, let's back up and talk about Free Comic Book Summer.
Yes.
That started this week, although technically it started the week before with Firepower. Although technically we've had books for... I'm sorry, what was that?
I was going to say not really. I mean, Firepower was kind of almost its own thing.
And we had more people in than we thought we would Wednesday looking for free comic books.
We did, yeah, it's true.
I wonder, I meant to pull them out today, but I didn't get around to it because I didn't get around to a lot of things today. If you want to pull out the free comic book signs that we used to put on the racks, so we can put those on the free books on the new release wall.
Oh, okay, sure.
Just to designate, because when people come in and say, do you have the free books? And we just say, oh, they're at the end of with the new release stuff.
Mm-hmm. They don't know which one's free and which one's
right.
not. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Something to differentiate it. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe that's why we're out of so many things. People just thought, oh, this new issue of Aquaman, it's free. I'll just take that.
Nope.
Or we could, and I just thought of this now, this wasn't what I was thinking of before, we could clear off that dollar rack and just put the free stuff there.
No, I like it in the this week's section.
Because it helps fill it up.
Yeah, and I like people having to go through the store to get to it.
I just wonder how long we're going to keep a lot of those books on the shelves.
Probably a while. I mean, each week is so small.
Yeah.
If we can't fit them, then we can't fit them. But in general, we can fit at least the week's new books each week, and I think probably several weeks worth.
Well, we should probably
6 weeks worth of books.
We should probably dust off the stuff that we got before the shutdown and put that stuff out.
Yeah, we should. They're in the back. I'll grab them
because those books have come out already.
It's true.
But anyway, for the free Comic Day books, Marvel had an X-Men book out this week, which was, I guess, a prelude to Ten of Swords.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, nothing really happened in it.
I mean, it looked good, but it's very much building hype. It's all it was trying to do.
But the back half of that book was an Avengers story by Tom Taylor called Dark Ages.
Yep.
And apparently Dark Ages is a non-continuity Marvel event.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
It is out of continuity.
Okay.
Where there's like a blackout, but no electricity. But it's like...
It's like a blackout where like electricity doesn't work anymore. Like technology just doesn't work.
Yeah, someone equated it to like a... It's like disease. It's a virus that's spreading, but through technology. But anyway...
What was that NBC show? Was it called Blackout or something? What was the...
there was an NBC crossover where...
No,
there was a blackout in New York City that went through Mad About You and Friends and ER.
There was an NBC like sci-fi show.
Okay, I don't remember
it took place like 15 or 16 or whatever years, a generation after technology just stopped working, and
okay,
Giancarlo Esposito I think was in it,
okay.
And yeah,
I never watched it.
I can't remember what it was even called. I think I watched like an episode or two and was like, I don't care.
You know how Savage Avengers was really just to bring Conan into the current Marvel universe? I think Dark Ages is doing the same thing.
Okay.
And all you have to do is add an N. This is their way to bring Dark Agnes into the current Marvel universe.
Probably not.
Just think about it. Dark Ages, Dark Agnes. They own the rights to Dark Agnes.
Seems unlikely.
Becky Cloonan was writing that Dark Agnes book.
Sure.
Just, she's a Puritan. They don't use electricity. It's a perfect way for her to come in and save the day.
It's true.
Mark my words. Dark Ages is all about Dark Agnes.
Got it.
I firmly believe that. don't.
No.
I definitely don't. Definitely don't. Yeah, I was surprised by the number of people on Wednesday who were looking for Free Comic Day books because...
Yeah, we had a line outside the door, which, again, I don't think was entirely about Free Comic Book Summer, especially because, like, the first couple people up to the counter were just getting, like, giant-size X-Men and an X-Men book, I guess. So maybe that, but they weren't grabbing, like, everything.
I'm just curious how they found out. Like, I remember when Free Comic Book Day became, not overnight, but over a year, became huge for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, you just switched through, and then suddenly it became massive.
The big thing was once they settled on it being a specific day of the year. It's the first Saturday in May. Because for the first few years, they were like, well, it's got to be by a movie. Because the first one was by Spider-Man. But then it was like, there weren't as many superhero movies, and sometimes they'd be later in the year. Like, one year it was tied to when the Ang Lee Hulk movie came out.
Yeah.
Which was, like, in July. So a lot of college towns are like, I can't do an event in July. There's no one here. So eventually, like, they settled on, like, early May, like, and then, first Saturday in May, and then it was locked in, and I think that helped a lot. Like, a couple years after that, suddenly became a thing of, like, oh, that's the time of year when Free Comic Book Day happens. It was easier to build awareness when it was the same time every year.
I'm curious to how people got the word about Free Comic Book Summer and that it started this week.
Don't know. We certainly didn't promote it.
Yeah, we didn't. We really didn't.
No.
And it's another thing about that is hard to police the... Remember our rule of 5 books per person?
Yeah, I don't care anymore.
I know, but it's just like, oh, it's a thing.
I remember at one point I'd overheard you telling someone, like, well, we're still doing the limit. It's like, how is that enforceable?
That's not the point.
Like a punch card? Like,
that's
how
not
does
the
it
point.
work?
You just tell people that.
Sure.
That's another way that this doesn't in any way help anybody.
I guess, every store is different about how they would police things, and every store kind of can do the same thing this time. Like, if you want to have, some specific way of limiting, go ahead. But for a lot of stores, they would just give people whatever they wanted. So keep doing that.
Dad, I want you to pull out your crystal ball.
Okay.
Look ahead to Free Comic Book Day 2021.
Okay.
Is it a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's optimistic based on, a virus that is unprecedented in the modern landscape. But yeah, I think Free Comic Book Day 2021 will happen on the first Saturday in May. I think.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I hope so.
Whoever is running Challengers, then we'll find out.
Sure.
It's a long way to go to get there.
It really is.
We had been kind of approached by a kind of a name creator to be part of a tour they're putting together. And number one, it's a pay tour, so we're not interested.
Correct.
But number two, we're not interested at all because of the pandemic.
No.
Local artist Jim Terry has a book that he wrote and drew coming out about growing up with Native American heritage. And it's getting really good reviews, and it was in theory coming out in September. And months ago, I reached out to him to say, like, hey, do you want to do something for this book? It sounds great. We'd love to support it in any way we can. And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. Now it's like, I don't think we're doing anything.
Yeah.
September's too close.
Yeah. Both of the Transformers conventions, TFCon Canada and TFCon Chicago, have been canceled for the year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
TFCon Chicago was originally planned for October, and that was rescheduled to October, and then they went, just forget it. There's just no TFCon this year anywhere. The West Coast one was canceled earlier this year, and then, yeah. So, yeah, just in general, I don't think anyone's planning any conventions, anything, any gatherings for the rest of this year. A lot of places that were having employees work remotely have been telling them don't plan on coming back in 2020.
Yeah.
They're already just saying, we do not have any confidence that this is going to change in the next 6 months.
And I know people that have been told, yeah, permanently you work from home.
Yeah. It was something that analysts for a lot of industries were expecting to happen over the next 5 or 10 years, but they were expecting it to really escalate, no earlier than 5 years from now. Now it's now it's happening in 1 to 5 years.
Once again, we picked an industry where we can't work from home.
Nope.
We get a lot of work done at home. We get a lot of work done off-site, but the bread and butter, the actual monetary part of the business is not from home. Even if we were just a mail order company, we'd still have to be.
Still have to go someplace to pack up the books.
Yeah.
Can't keep all them books at home.
One of the publishers had reached out to retailers and said, who has closed again or who's on the verge of closing again?
Yeah.
And most people are like, we're still open, but
Yeah.
we're in San Francisco, we're in California, we're in Texas or Florida, and these things could change anywhere.
Yep.
I heard, okay, this isn't going to work because I just started putting this joke together in my head, so I didn't have a chance to workshop it.
Okay.
And even now I'm stalling.
Sure.
But I heard that Chuck Woolery was so on board with the idea of comic retail being the future that he was talking all about it and tweeting about it. And then the very next day, his son, I can't land it. Never mind.
Okay.
Do you know what I was getting into?
Nope.
You know who Chuck Woolery is?
The game show host?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He tweeted all about how COVID-19 is a hoax and it isn't real.
Oh,
and
jeez.
the next day, his son got it.
Oh, no.
Or was diagnosed with it, didn't get it. He obviously already had it.
Right.
But then somebody reversed his stance and then deleted all his social media.
Yep.
So I was trying to put together a little joke there, but I couldn't land it. Also, it wouldn't have landed because you didn't know what I was talking about.
I didn't. Yeah, I don't follow social media, so a lot of that stuff, unless it becomes really big news, like I'm not aware.
I don't know. It seems like lately, whenever I try to be like, hey, Dal, how about this? You're like, yeah, I heard about that. Because you get it through your channels and things.
I guess.
Like, I can't give you wrestling news anymore because you're already on top of it.
I mean, not a lot.
I can tell you that Sho and Yo are Sanrio characters now.
You did, that's true.
Yeah. And Mike Lee sent me this article that I need to send to you all about the Golden Lovers.
Okay.
And it had a term that I had to A, look up, and B, have defined, like how to pronounce it and what it means.
Sure.
It's cishet.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Cisgender, heterosexual.
Yeah, I had not heard of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's less syllables for sure. It's just 2.
Like just saying Smith instead of Aerosmith.
Sure.
Because you talk about Aerosmith all the time. If you think about how often you wouldn't have to say arrow over the span of your lifetime, you'd gain like hours back.
It's true.
So I guess it's like that.
It's exactly like that.
That's what I thought. You know what? That's what I thought. That is exactly what I thought. So stores closing, probably closing again.
Yep.
I read an article yesterday about like, hey, what's your COVID budget? And you really need to hold on to it because things are going to happen.
Yeah, it definitely is a consideration. I don't think a lot of the more optimistic projections about, we've turned a corner and now we're back to no, that all seemed incredibly rushed. And yeah, I don't know if we'll have to close to the public real soon.
Yeah.
I don't know if Chicago will close to the public. I don't know if that's on the table. Short of some really catastrophic failures in containment. But it could lead to less people leaving the house. It could lead to less people, making trips out to non-essential places like comic shops. I don't know.
It could lead to return to Wednesday deliveries.
I mean, that would be if we had to close to walk-in traffic.
Right.
Which I think that's not super likely, but it's definitely not completely unlikely.
Chicago and Illinois are doing okay, i.e. the rest of the country, but not okay, i.e. the rest of the world.
Right.
And did you see the statistic where, like, last week, Florida had more cases than all of Europe combined?
Yeah.
For the entirety of their...
Yep.
It's absurd.
It really is.
It's absolutely absurd.
And then you see stuff like the governor of Georgia overruling cities and counties and making it so that you cannot legally mandate people wear masks.
Yeah.
Insane. Just insane.
As much as I hate to perpetuate this terminology because I have a sister who is wonderful named Karen. There was an ad for a fake video collection.
Okay.
Karen's Gone Wild.
Oof.
And it's all the Karens who won't wear masks in public, throwing tantrums, throwing food all over Trader Joe's or what have you.
Sure.
You've heard of and probably seen some of those.
Yeah. There was a a new American Girl doll that was being promoted.
Oh no, is her name Karen?
It was a Karen, and it was just like it was how she won't wear a mask at like Publix or whatever. It was of course fake, and the American Girl doll company was very upset about the parody.
She has a cell phone in her hand with a 9 and a 1 on it, and she's just looking for a black person.
Kind of. There was a GameStop is now requiring patrons to wear masks.
Okay.
However, they also released literature to employees on how to deal with people who don't wear masks. And
let me guess. It's if there's a conflict, let them not wear it.
Exactly. You can't do anything. You can't enforce the rule. Like you can, like if people are escalating it and they don't want to wear a mask, you can offer them a complimentary mask, and if they refuse, you take care of whatever they need as quickly as possible and get them out of the store.
Oh my god.
So it's like, that's great. And GameStop's defense of this when that came out was that they were doing it out of concern for their employee safety, because there have actually been a bunch of places where employees at businesses have enforced a mask rule and been harmed by customers.
What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not at GameStop specifically, but there have been stories about places where, McDonald's. People got shot at a McDonald's because they told someone they had to wear a mask to come in. And that person had a gun, and they decided they would rather shoot someone than wear a mask.
I read an essay about being tolerant of intolerance, and how if you're tolerant to intolerance, intolerance takes over, and there's no more tolerance.
Kind of, yeah.
Like if you just say, like, it's okay that's their right, they can do that. Like for example, there was a bar that had a very strict no Nazi policy.
Sure.
And a patron was at a bar, and and I'll tie this to comics, don't worry. And he was just drinking at the bar, not talking to the bartender because he wasn't he was from out of town. And a guy came in and sat down and ordered a drink, and the bartender's like, "No, get out of here right now. You're not welcome." He's like, "But I don't care, get out." And so the patron's like, "Hey, what happened?" He seemed like a nice guy. He's like, "You didn't see the front of his vest. It was covered in Nazi paraphernalia, iron crosses, and stuff like that." And that's what they do. One guy will come in, and even though he's wearing the stuff, he's really nice. He doesn't cause trouble, and you think, he's harmless. I'll let it go. And then a few weeks later, he brings a friend, and his friend is nice, and his friend is harmless. You think, that's fine. And then little by little, you get known as a Nazi bar, and before you know it, the majority of your clientele is a Nazi bar. And then when you finally say, "Hey, enough's enough, you're not welcome here," it's too late. You're overrun with Nazis.
Yeah.
And then they can cause a problem. So a zero tolerance policy at that bar kicks them out, and that just, like, if you were tolerant of their intolerance, their intolerance would take you over.
Sure.
So we're in a position where we can tell people, you have to wear a mask in our store.
Yep.
And we talked about it at length a week or two ago. And I can honestly say there have been way less instances that I've been aware of this week.
Yeah.
At most, it's just people who's literally, as they're talking to you, the mask slips down a little bit, and you're like, "Hey, cover that,"
Yeah, there's people who wear masks, but not a lot of people who wear them correctly.
Well, also, most people don't have to wear masks all day like you and I have to do.
Right.
And you know this, I know this, everyone knows this. Masks aren't comfortable.
Nope.
And Dal has been moderate. Dal has a Challenger's mask and a Kamen Rider mask.
I bought 4 more Kamen Rider masks today because Pocket Toku, the Etsy store that I got my Kamen Rider mask from, finally restocked.
Okay.
So I got, on the way, I got a wizard mask, I got a birth mask, I've got an O's mask, and a build mask.
Oh, no Fies?
Fies would not make a very good mask because of how it's structured. Imagine, take an oval and then bisect it vertically, and then take just the bottom half of that and make it a mask.
Okay.
It would look really... It would not look like anything.
Well, I mean, your current,
My double mask?
It's Kamen Rider Double?
Kamen Rider Double.
Is like that. It's like a bisected oval where one side is just a color.
Yeah, but because of the colors, like, it gives it... And there's some ridges and stuff on the actual mask itself that form little W's, but also work into the motif of the Kamen Rider mask. But with Fies, it's like a headlight that got split down the center.
Okay.
So it just looks like two weird yellow half circles on your face. It doesn't.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe they'll end up doing a Fies. Maybe a Fies is way further down their list of masks to make.
Well, my point is I have a lot of masks. I have 5 different Captain America masks.
Yeah.
I have the Comic Fists mask that we made. I'm not even counting the black masks that we did.
Sure.
I have the Challenger's mask. I have a Jericho mask on the way. I've got a Anne Boleyn mask on the way.
Yeah.
And a Kiss mask on the way.
Yeah.
And of all these masks, I only actively like 2 of them.
Yeah.
The rest of them aren't comfortable for wearing 8 to 10 hours at a time.
No, I mean, I did a few other masks before we got ours from the good folks at First Aid Comics. And I still have them. They just suck. I don't like wearing them. Like, there's one where, like, the seam is right on the nose, and it pulls on my ears, and it presses on my nose, and it's just like, and it's not comfortable.
I bought a really fancy Avengers one from, I think it was fashionmasks.com or something like that. And it's adjustable. It's the only one I have that's adjustable. But to make it fit snugly, you have to tighten it up, and you tighten it up, and it hurts my ears.
Yeah.
Basically, there's only two masks that I have, and they're the 2 Captain America ones that I got from John Dudas from Carol and John's comic shop in Cleveland, Ohio. Are the only 2 that don't hurt my ears for an extended period of time. I do have another one I got from Walt Grogan and his wife, but that don't hurt my ears at all because it's a tie. But I, honest to God, have such a hard time tying and untying it. Like, if I was just going to leave it and not untie it at all during the day, fine. But if you're at work for 8 hours, you have to eat.
Yeah,
There's going to be a point where you take the mask, at least loosen part of it to get... like, if I undo the top and pull it down, that messes up the beard.
Sure.
And then if I do the bottom, like, it's just too hard to retie it back up.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that one doesn't hurt the ears, and it messes with the incoming hairstyle.
Sure.
But that is definitely one that doesn't hurt the ears. So I hope against hope that each one that I order, like, you don't know what these things are going to feel like how they fit.
Yeah, that's why I was very keen to go back to somebody who I'd bought a mask from before that I enjoyed.
But you don't like that mask all that much.
I do.
But I mean, like, you wouldn't wear it 8 hours a day.
8 hours is a lot.
Right.
So I'm not buying it off of that level.
Okay.
It's enough for me to go run errands. It's enough for me on days that I'm not working to wear 2 places.
Sure.
But it's not something that I'd ever want to wear for more than 4 hours.
Yeah, like most of my masks, and I've even worn the Comic Fists one out to run errands.
Sure.
Because I know I'm not wearing it 4 hours at a time. But I'm looking at, like, what can I wear this at work all day?
Sure.
And most of them are no.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable.
No.
And it's kept me from making any other Challenger designs because I don't really enjoy the one that we have.
It's true.
That being said, listener, you'll probably love the black ones we have with the multiple C's all the way across
How about it?
Especially if your head isn't nearly as fat as ours are.
Yeah, there was a mask I got, and one of the first ones I got was from a company called the American Blanket Company.
Sounds like it's a soft mask.
It is. It's one that I don't like because it pulls on my ears and the seam presses right on my nose. So I looked and I wanted to see, like, oh, maybe they've got different designs, or maybe they've got, like, different materials, or maybe they've got bigger ones. And I looked and I found one. I'm like, oh, I'll get it in a larger size. I probably just got the smaller size before. Looked at the receipt. No, I got the large size before.
Oh.
Okay, great.
Whoops.
They just don't make them big enough.
Yeah.
And that's such a weird common complaint. It's just, you need it snug, but you don't want it to be too snug. And if you only make, like, 1 or 2 sizes, like, this is not going to work.
I've seen people that have really sophisticated clips to keep them off your ears and hook them onto those. And we bought some right away, and they were horrible, and they broke.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't like the idea of clips. Plus, clips seem like there's so much extra work.
Yep.
Speaking of extra work, we stayed at the store for a little while extra last Saturday night. And with the very generous help of Keith and Margie Bingham and Drew Triner and Ashley Edwards, we redid our back issue area.
Yeah.
And for the last couple of years, we've been using drawer boxes. And drawer boxes, for your own personal collection, are great. They're sturdy. They can hold a lot of weight. They're like comic-sized filing cabinets. And if you have a collection and you want something that looks good and is functional and you can get to your books easy, drawer boxes are great. If you're a store and people are constantly pulling those boxes out, those drawers break down real quickly.
They do.
And we had them for years.
Mm-hmm.
And we replaced them once. We replaced the boxes for sure.
I don't think we've replaced the houses.
Okay. So we got rid of the houses and we put all of the back issue boxes on IKEA Kallax shelves. And you'll know exactly what we're talking about if you've ever been to IKEA or seen their shelves. It's their custom shelf. It's got to be their biggest seller. They have a massive center aisle full of them because they've got different configurations.
It's the cube ones.
They're 13 by 13 inch square shelves. You can get them in 1x4, 2x4, 4x4. I mean, a lot of different things. So we had this idea during quarantine, only IKEAs were closed. And they would offer delivery, but they were backed up for months. And while we were putting this together, then I'm not sure who it was. One of us had an accident with some turtles.
I don't remember which one.
I know we were both there.
Yeah, that sounds right. Probably
So,
one of us for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It might have been Kent. I'm not sure. So we were unable to complete the physicality of that task.
Mm-hmm.
And the irony it was Ashley Challenger who spurred this along at this point. And then she wound up not being part of this process at all. So I went out to IKEA in Bolingbrook and bought a whole bunch of Kallax shelves, and then we had our small crew of people, and we kept it at 6 people so we could be in 2-person teams that were socially distant as much as possible.
Yeah.
And in fact, your team it wasn't even a team. You were just 2 people doing the same task in different places.
Yep.
And one of the things that we had to do, which we realized early on, was we didn't just build these shelves, but every shelf is reinforced with 4 metal brackets underneath it to be able to not only hold the weight of the boxes, but to be able to hold the pressure of the boxes as people pull them out and push down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they look great. We still need to replace all of the actual boxes, which we'll do, and there's a wrinkle to that I will talk to you about once we're done recording.
Okay.
I discovered a thing today that made me unhappy.
Okay.
And they look good. They're clean. That won't last.
No.
They let in so much more light.
They really do.
They are a little bit space wasteful.
Yeah.
Like, there's, I don't know, maybe 4 extra inches, more than that, per shelf.
Mm-hmm.
If they were adjustable, we could work on something. But anyway, I think they look great.
Yeah.
And I'm happy we did it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely gotten more people to look through the back issue boxes, I think, this last week.
True.
One of the things we didn't consider was how, and I got over this quickly, we'll have to just live with how messy they're going to look.
Yeah, they don't really go back in straight because there's nothing running parallel to the boxes to keep them, straight to the front of the shelves.
Level or even.
So people just push them back, and it's like, well, now they're diagonal, now they're further back or further forward. The boxes are on a shelf, but that's about all they are.
Oh man, I just had a thought. We had a bunch of supplies delivered this week, and toward the end of the day, I was out putting new boxes out, and I looked, I'm like, where are all the boards? Because I sold like 4 packages of boards today.
Wow.
And the shelf was totally empty. I'm like, wait, we just got 30 in yesterday. Where are the rest of these? And it was a matter of finding where Ken had put them.
Sure.
And there's too much overstock to just fit on the underneath shelf.
Right.
We could put single packs of boards on all of those shelves.
Probably could.
Just to like, oh, it's overstock,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of helps balance the books out a little bit more. But I think they came out great. I'm happy we did it. It looks good. It made us move stuff like the poster rack, which is now in Sidekicks, and we had to get rid of the spinner rack that used to be manga, then became our half-off stuff. But we needed to. That, again, is a thing that would be great if it was housing your CDs or DVDs, that outdated technology, in your home. But on a particle board shelf that was, A, supporting more weight than it was ever supposed to, B, constantly being moved around, like that thing was falling apart quick.
It was, it's true.
And there was so much detritus and, if I may, Excelsior on the floor around it and underneath it.
Yep.
And it was pretty gross. So it's gone. So it's this giant row of shelves that go from the local section all the way to the supplies. But it looks good that way.
Yeah.
So again, Ashley and Drew and Margie and Keith, thank you so much for your help.
Thanks, everybody.
Margie and Keith have been helping when we were doing deliveries.
Yep.
And Ashley and Drew have helped us multiple times. Drew was with us when we got the blue shelves, the blue book racks in blue.
That's right.
And helped us open all those, and
Yeah.
now those things are mostly gone.
Yep.
And then Drew and Ashley put up the rest of the blinds for us too.
That's true.
So those two have been Challenger All-Stars.
Thanks.
So thank you both very much. And hey, you know what? Thank you for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.